Welcome to another video here on The Pulse. Today I want to give an update on some of the FOIA documents that I got back from the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. This particular FOIA request was asking from CSIS, which is essentially like the Canadian version of the CIA. It was asking from CSIS, what do you have? What have you been talking about? What do you know? What have you been saying behind the scenes about the Freedom Convoy, all the way from, days before the trucks arrived in Ottawa to, days after. So I was kind of just trying to get a look at their entire interpretation of this event over the course of time. And I didn't expect, to be quite honest, to get a whole lot from CSIS. The reason being is they are an intelligence agency and they are likely not going to reveal a whole lot about the way they go about doing what they do. However, I was hoping we were going to get something. And I do think that what we got in these documents is pretty interesting with regards to the discussion of domestic terrorism. I kind of want to talk about domestic terrorism, this building narrative, and also kind of the role that some people within the alternative space actually play in fueling the government's position on this. And I kind of want to end it off with a little bit of a discussion on what we can do with our anger to sort of process it and navigate it in a healthy way when it comes to current events, because my position is that so much of what we're seeing happening in the activist world right now is lacking a deep sense of sort of wisdom about how to navigate our emotions and how to strategically and effectively get something done. Because we're kind of focused a lot on pointing the finger, pointing blame, getting extremely angry, and doing things that I think are actually hurting the cause. So all that's going to be tied in with this. Let's start with the documents. The last thing I want to say actually is we still have some outstanding FOIA requests in other areas of government with regards to the Freedom Convoy that I'm way more excited about than what we did here with CSIS. I think they're going to reveal a lot more just simply based on the nature that CSIS is an intelligence agency. So with this FOIA request, a lot of the documents were redacted, which means we didn't even get them. They didn't even want to send them to us. We were notified of that. We did get 86 pages of documents. I will post them on our website. You can have a look at them yourself if you want. These are free and available to the public, so enjoy. One of the key things I pulled out of this was this sort of continual discussion of domestic terrorism, of extremism, of violence, of conspiracy theory, of anti-government sentiment that's growing, of how they're interpreting or navigating online discussion. This is a big thing that comes up a lot, and I kind of wanted to tie this all together in a meaningful story. So obviously, the narrative of domestic terrorism has sort of replaced the sort of foreign terrorist narrative that's been alive and well for a very long time. And to build this narrative, to build what's going on here, is always this discussion of, people are losing faith in authority. People are losing faith in government. People are speaking online in ways that are very violent or very aggressive towards government. So let's go over to the CSIS documents with regards to the Freedom Convoy and look at one of the areas here that says ITAC judges that the Freedom Convoy protests have become a rallying point for anti-government and anti-authority, anti-vaccination, conspiracy theory, and xenophobic groups throughout North America and other Western countries. Convergences and instability of this kind will likely occur throughout 2022. They continue in another bullet point. We note that the Freedom Convoy is a direct and very public manifestation of the increasingly mainstream legitimization of violence against elected officials and public figures connected to the COVID-19 related public health measures. So what they're saying here is that they're seeing this story build. They're seeing people get upset and pissed off online. They're trying to sort of lump together in some ways that anti-government, anti-authority, anti-vaccination, conspiracy theories, and xenophobics all kind of mixed together, right? And we see this when we hear Trudeau say something like, these people, this fringe minority is the people that are racist and misogynistic and anti-vaccine, all these sentiments that are being lumped together at the political level to create a mass perception that these people are dangerous, that these people are bad. And you can see that it is likely the case that it's not just a PR firm that's helping Trudeau come up with what to say, but it's probably what they're getting from the intelligence agencies, because what these documents here basically is they're reports that are for official use only, that are likely shared with Trudeau's government, right? They get to see, and there would be briefings where, hey, Mr. Trudeau, this is kind of what's going on. This is what people are saying about you online. Here's what's going on, right? So let's leave that key detail there as we go to this next piece that talks about threats to officials. Abundant online threats incite violence against Canadian elected officials, predominantly directed at Prime Minister Trudeau. Known IMVE, which is ideologically motivated violent extremists, have indicated their desire to kill political leaders where protected individuals are inaccessible and attacked against a symbolic individual at a less secure location, such as a constituency office or personal residence, is possible. So what they're saying here is that online, there's all these extreme people that are saying really, really crazy things. And if you look a little bit more closely at some of the other documents, I want to point your attention here to the third bullet point that says an online supporter of the convoy and protests espoused online. If anything, we should grab Trudeau by the neck and kick the shit out of him for what he's done, right? Now, you might think that this type of language is extremely rare. It's not. I mean, if I'm being fully honest here, this type of language about Trudeau, about other politicians, about Biden, about all these different politicians that have become popular and that have become a target of people over the last while, not just from people who oppose mandates, but all over the place. I mean, there's people who violently wanted to kill Trump. There's people who have huge issues with an emerging politician here in Canada named Pierre Poilievre. They're attacking this guy as if he's the scum of the earth, and there's some really nasty stuff going on there. The point is that this language online is producing this instance where, CSIS and the government is starting to think, oh my God, people are becoming desensitized to being able to say whatever they want online. And the government is taking it very, very seriously. And this sort of leads to the bigger question of when we have so much anger, which most people have every right to be angry about what has happened over the last couple of years here. And I think people in general are becoming very sick and tired, as I am, of the nature of what's happening in our world and how it functions and how it is working not in favor of people, but is actually working in favor of, let's say, businesses, or in favor of powerful people maintaining their power. Most of the system that we have here before us is incentivized to do that. It's incentivized to allow powerful people to remain powerful, and the general population, if you will, to sort of stay under this illusion that we live in a democracy whereby we actually have a say over what's happening in our world around us, when in reality we have a say over apparently, like, we can elect an official, but that official can then do whatever they want, right? So people are starting to feel that more and more and more and more, their lives are becoming more difficult, and they're becoming more challenging, and they're not enjoying what is happening in their everyday life when it comes to the tightening and the tightening and the tightening. And COVID just blew that to a whole other level. And people are feeling anger. They're feeling disparity. They're feeling hopeless. They're feeling that we don't know what to do. This problem is so big, we have no idea how to tackle it. People are losing their jobs. They're losing their livelihood. They're losing their friends. They're losing their family, and they have no idea what to do about it. So I can understand that we have this anger that's building up. But, you look at some of the most effective, some of the best leaders that we've had in our past who have gotten major changes to happen. People like Martin Luther King come to mind in this particular case, because I'm thinking about the way, he kind of navigated anger, and he navigated this position of saying, look, we have to maintain a level of wisdom. We have to maintain a level of respect. We have to maintain a level of channeling that anger into something meaningful, into something valuable. And the challenge that I'm having, and I've felt this way for a long time, and I felt this way when I was at the Freedom Convoy for many days on end, looking at kind of the nature of what was being said about politicians and about, the aggression and the stuff that, again, it was a beautiful, beautiful event in so many ways, but I can't deny the fact that there was, in my view, the Freedom Convoy to some extent acted as a cathartic moment to get out anger. Not that people were violent. People were not destructive. It was probably one of the best organized. I think one of the reasons why the government hated it was because people came there. They created a little economy of everything is free. Everybody was fed. Everything was clean. Everything was organized. There was a ton of security, and to make sure that everything was staying safe. And without any government involved. So the streets were cleaned faster, the place was cleaner in general, and government's looking at this going, well, I guess we're not even really needed here. But regardless of that, going back to my point on anger, there was a lot of anger towards politicians, right? And it becomes the target for what now the intelligence agencies and other journalists can look at and say, hold on a second, I'm looking at comments online where people are saying, if anything, we should grab Trudeau by the neck, kick the shit out of him for what he's done. And that's all over the place. This is not a lone actor. This is everywhere. On our Telegram channel, we see this stuff all the time, right? We see this on our YouTube, and it's not trolls. These are people that are angry. I don't know what to do with my anger, so this is how I'm expressing it. This is what's coming out. And unfortunately, it's working against people that are well-intentioned and want to create a better place in this world, because governments and CSIS are taking that and utilizing it as fuel to push a domestic terrorism sort of narrative now upon people. And journalists who perhaps aren't thinking on this level of analyzing the nature of our culture and the nature of what's going on are just going to say, holy crap, these people are psychos. These people are crazy. Then they're going to go report that to the average person out there who's going to go, man, there's all these people online calling for the death of our prime minister. Yeah, these people associated with the convoy are crazy. So what do we do? How do we actually work with this anger? How do we actually use something, in a way like, yes, we feel that change needs to happen, but if we can't hold a place of love in our hearts, if we can't act through love in some way, shape, or form, what I mean by that is a sense of respect, a sense of actual care, a sense of actual empathy for people around you and for people that are doing things, and we're not 100% sure why. Right? All different levels of government are people operating and doing different things. And it's super, super easy to hate on people. But the reality of the situation is that we have to come to terms with is that our systems are incentivizing these politicians doing what they're doing. Our systems are creating these people, right? It's not that these people are just, hey, they were born corrupt. They probably started off a particular way. They entered into the system. The system slowly made these people into what they are today, right? And now they have no way but to continue doing what they're doing in this particular system. We talk about, oh, well, they should be acting ethically. You can't. You can't operate ethically and be in politics, right? You can say you can. We can adopt this delusion, right? And because it is a delusion that we can operate ethically and be a prime minister of a country. The system doesn't allow that. It incentivizes bad behavior. And this is kind of the realization we have to come to, is that our systems are creating this situation. And so for us to kind of continually just point blame, well, if we got rid of this politician and put in a different one, then everything would be okay. This is not going to happen, right? We've been going decade after decade after decade after decade. New politicians, same problems. New politicians, same problems. New politicians, same problems. New politicians, same problems. In sort of systems analysis, you would say that, hey, we haven't identified what the actual problem is here. We haven't identified what is actually causing the issue. We keep saying it's corrupt politicians. It's not corrupt politicians. It's the underlying system itself that is incentivizing bad behavior everywhere you turn. So we need to recognize that. We also need to be able to take our anger and be able to, utilize it in a healthy way, have it contained to an extent, but not suppress it. We're not trying to say, hey, let's push down the anger. We actually have to look at the anger, let it sort of be what it is, process it in a healthy manner, which I'm going to put some links to how you might be able to do that in the description below, but process that anger in a healthy way. And then once that energy has flown through us, that anger, that initial feeling to want to have some aggression, want to have some feelings about something that we're upset about, once we've processed that and have that move through us, we can now reflect on, hey, okay, what is an intelligent and wise way to move forward? How do we take what we just had feeling there and do something meaningful with it? Because ultimately we don't want to become consumed by the anger. We don't want the anger to run us. We don't want the anger to cause us to have to lash out online in ways that are unproductive and that are only going to add to the problem, right? Because I think the point I'm trying to make here is ultimately that this aggressive talking online all the time is only adding to the problem, right? It's not making the situation better. It's adding to the issue. So there has to be a different approach that we can take. And I think that if we want to be an effective agent of change in this world, it's looking at not only, hey, what result do we want to achieve, but what are sort of the behaviors and the emotions that help us achieve those results in a meaningful and effective way as we go about doing this. So I really want to kind of sort of just summarize quickly here. We have a situation where intelligence agencies and governments are seeing this rise in people being pissed off, and they have every right to be pissed off. But the ways in which we're dealing with being pissed off is fueling their panic over, oh my God, these people are now becoming extremists. And sure, they're hyperbolizing that extremism, and they're trying to gather up as many people as they can into that definition of extremism. But nonetheless, there is fuel coming from the people who are upset in ways that fuel doesn't need to be there. We could still effectively create change in this world without fueling this idea of, hey, these are domestic terrorists that are coming to get us. Now, I'm not saying the government's just going to suddenly drop their idea of domestic terrorism. If people were suddenly processing their anger and coming at how to create change in a more effective way, ultimately, all we can control is ourselves. And if we want to create a situation where we are still taking action in a meaningful and effective way and uniting people as opposed to creating more of the fire that's going to rain down upon us later, then we need to take care of more than just what we think are the facts that we're generating in our head, but we need to take care of our behaviors, our emotions, and the way we're expressing them out there. Anyway, hope there was some value to what I was trying to say here. And like I said, there's going to be some links below that sort of discuss what it looks like to actually process some of this stuff, because I don't want people to avoid being angry and to suppress that anger. That's not what it's about. It's about how do we use that in a non-destructive, effective way, and then go about with wise behavior, wise decisions to go about making the change that we're making. That's it. That's all. Subscribe, pass this off to somebody else. And thanks so much for watching.